All right, on day 2, just so that you guys know what we got. With this one, it's going to be x squared plus 10x plus 9 less than 0. Okay, when you are looking at that one, the difference between this one and the first day, on what you guys had on Wednesday, there's no y in this problem. That's the difference. Okay, this is going to be solving a quadratic inequality. It is not a parabola. What we're going to do to solve this algebraically is I'm going to take out the inequality symbol for a minute, and I'm going to make it look like just a quadratic. How do you solve for x? You have multiple ways. You can factor. You can use the quadratic formula. You can complete the square. You got a couple different ways there. If it factors, factoring is faster and it's easier. If it doesn't factor, then use the quadratic formula. So which way would you like to solve this one? By factoring or quadratic formula?
Probably factoring.
Factoring. What times what gives me x squared?
X.
What times what gives me 9 but adds up to be 10? 9 and 1. Then when you set each group equal to 0, x plus 9 equals 0, x plus 1 equals 0, what would I get? X equals negative 9 and x equals negative 1. Now, those are not my answers, but they are part of the answer. What that is now is those are the numbers that would belong on my number line. So which one's furthest to the left on the number line? Negative 9 or negative 1? Negative 9. So negative 9 is going on the number line, and negative 1 is going on a number line. On negative 9 and negative 1, would those be open circles or closed circles?
Open.
Why are they open circles? There's no equal to. If the inequality in the original problem would have been underlined, then I would have had them as closed circles. But those are open circles. Okay? Is everybody okay with that so far?
So what was the closed circle?
If this would have been underlined, like if it would have said x squared plus 10x plus 9 is less than or equal to. Okay? So if that would have been underlined there, I would have had both closed circles. Now, what you have to determine is where do I shade the line? Do I shade the line to the left of negative 9? Do I shade it in between negative 9 and negative 1? Or to the right of negative 1? One of the ways that I like to do it is I like to use what I call a test method or test point method. What this happened to do is you broke it into 3 different areas or zones. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to plug numbers from each of those zones into the original problem and see which one's true and which one's false. True statements I shade, false statements I don't. So what's the number left of negative 9? So negative 10 squared plus 10 times negative 10 plus 9. What's negative 10 squared?
100.
What's 10 times negative 10?
Negative 100.
So what's 100 minus 100 plus 9? Is 9 less than 0?
Yes. No.
No. So therefore, I would not shade zone 1. What's the number between negative 9 and negative 1?
Negative 5.
Negative 5 squared plus 10 times negative 5 plus 9. What's negative 5 squared? What's negative 5 squared? 25. What's 10 times negative 5? What's 25 minus 50 plus 9? Negative 16. Is negative 16 less than 0? Yes. If you answer yes to that question, shade. If you answer no, no shade. What's the number to the right of negative 1? 0. Thanks, Lexi, for picking the easiest one. 0 squared plus 10 times 0 plus 9, is that going to be less than 0? No, because 9 is not less than 0, so no shade. So what's my answer? Between negative 9 to negative 1. That's my answer. How do you write that? In your lifetimes, this is what you guys have seen. For that answer, you've seen this. Negative 9 is less than x, which is less than negative 1. That's how you've seen that answer written before. One of the ways that you're going to see it when you get into college level math is you're going to see it like this. That's what we call interval notation. This means not equal to. If it was equal to, I would have put brackets around it. If it would have said equal to. That's the only difference. So this is what you're going to see in your future. I will accept either one of those answers if you want to work with the interval notation. Either way, your answer is either this or this. Okay?
Does it matter which order?
Yes. Always go from left to right. What do you guys think of that problem? And you guys use factoring to do it. Now, if you want, the alternative is you could graph these also using your calculator. So when you look at problems like this one, x squared minus 4x plus 2 is greater than or equal to 0. Again, if I had this type of scenario, I could use the quadratic formula or factoring to get the answers, but I could also use my calculator. And when you use your calculator, what you do is this part here goes into y1. And when you put it in your calculator that way, you get a parabola. You get a parabola that looks like something similar to this. And that's what you get. Now, what I need to know out of you guys is, where does it cross the x-axis? Without just trying to guess, use your calculator to do this. We did this in a previous stuff, like in section 1 of chapter 3. When you did that, you're going to go second trace. Down to number 2. Where it crosses the x-axis is known as a 0. Now when you do that, remember the graphing calculator right away will give you blah, 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 blah. And it'll say, is that left of where it crosses? Yes or no? Right where it is? Yeah, it is. So you can go ahead and enter. And remember that arrow comes in. Then you move the cursor down to the right of it, which is down here, and hit enter. So what should happen is, your left and your right, remember the arrows should point at each other? And in the guess part, just hit enter one more time. And what number comes up? Rounded to 2 decimal places.
0.59.
0.59. Now when you do the other one, the one to the right of it, again, I start off with putting something right around in here, that's left of it. Then I put something up here, and that's to the right of it, so that the arrows point at each other. And then on the guess phase, just hit enter, and I come up with what number for the other side? What's the other x? 3.41.
Does the y not matter?
Does the y matter? That's a question that Sydney asked. No. In the original problem, Sydney, was there a y in it?
No.
No. So you're only finding x's. Oh, that's a bad looking color, sorry. Now we can see it. So what we did was we used the calculator to come up with those numbers instead of you physically doing it by hand using the quadratic formula. Would these be open or closed circles?
Close, open,
Open. Why open?
because there's no equality.
It's no equal,
Yeah.
right? Now the other thing is I'm going to let the calculator help me out do the problem also. That's a parabola just like you guys did for me today. Would I shade inside the bowl or outside the bowl? How do you know?
Because it wasn't true.
Okay, if I put 0, 0 in there, which is 0, 0 is on the outside. 0 squared minus 4 times 0 plus 2 is 2. Is 2 greater than 0?
Yeah.
So that would mean on this part I would shade on the outside, which means on my number line, which way would I shade?
Inside.
On the outsides. For those of you who remember this a little bit, when you guys did it before, the way you would write that out is you would write x is less than 0.59 or x is greater than 3.41. That's how you guys would have had to write it before. If you want to try the interval notation, it's negative infinity. And the reason why it's negative infinity, because that means all the way to the left. Up to 0.59. And then there's a bridge or a gap in the line, so you put a big giant U. And then it would go 3.41 to positive infinity. No, this interval notation stuff is just another option for you to write it. Just so that you guys know, for those of you who aspire to go to college either next year or the year after, that's how you're going to see that answer. You are not going to see it like the bottom. In college level classes, we use interval notation. We don't use the x is greater than or equal to or less than or equal to anymore. Okay? The way that you do them, you either do them by hand or you do them with the calculator. That's it for new stuff. Would you like me to do another one? Okay. So on page 145, 32 to 42 evens, 45 and 46.